Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. In today's video I decided to try and make a little bit of a medieval inspired build, and I thought I want to try and see if I could make in a little bit of a tutorial so you can actually see what I'm doing. I wanted to make this into a little cottage, but I want to use the tool mod and items from the debugs item to frame the house itself and not just use the normal columns that I would normally do. First, of course, I make the empty shell, I add the roof, and I make everything go inside so it's easier to place everything outside of it. Then I copy it and I bring it down to the basement. The reason for that now you will see in the next part, where I now decide to find the different logs that I want to use. I place them around the house where I want them to be. The reason why I do this in the basement is because of the square of the item itself is so big that it interrupts the sim when it tries to move around inside of the house. If you have an object standing close to it, it won't reach it. If it's close to the door, it can't enter the door. Even though the item itself shows that it's way far away from the door, the green block on the ground still will be there. So that's why I place it down in the basement and then I raise it up by use of elevator in the tool mod. As you can see, I had more than one object green and they all got lifted at the same time. And by doing this, I make my job way easier. And the way that I did this is that I of course pick tool mod, and then I pick out toggle active object, and then this object gets green. But then I hold down the Alt button and left click all the other items that I want to change at the same time. When I'm happy with the results that I'm having, they have elevated to the height that I want them to be in, I go back holding down the Alt button and left click on the mouse and then pick out all the same items again to remove the toggle. The next part that I'm trying to do now is to make the block itself lay down, and this way I can have it as a line around the house before the roof gets on. And what I need to do there is to rotate it. When you hold, of course, the Alt button again, you click tool mod, and instead of using elevator, we are going to use rotate. And when you pick rotate, you can get this circle around your block. If it's whole, you can see it laying on the ground, it means that the item itself will spin around its own axis. But if you want to change the axis, you can tell by the circle itself, the way that is formed, which way the block itself is going to move. So you can have left, right, back, forth, depending on which way the circle goes. The way that we then will make this object rotate is by use of either minus or plus. So I want this item to just lay down by the ground, so I pick 45. This way, it doesn't really matter if it's minus or plus, it will go flat on the ground either way. And then of course it's back into toggle object, holding down the Alt button, left click, and mark out all the same blocks that I want to elevate again. When I elevate, I can have plus or minus. The plus sign doesn't show, but it's already there. But if I want to have minus, I have to click the minus sign before I add numbers into it. And what I do is of course in this situation I want it to raise up, so I can go on elevate and click 5 for example, and then it will rise 5 up. If this is too much, I can go back down again, but then I hold down the minus button and then I maybe click 1, the number 1 on your keyboard. If this is too much, then you can even lower the number more and go down to 0.5 or 0.05 to even get it lower, so as much as possible. A lot of the use of the tool mod at this point is most that I just repeat myself. I have the items down in the basement and I raise them up. The good thing about this, as I said earlier, is that the big green square on the item itself isn't above ground anymore. This is what was great with the tool mod. It stays down in the basement, so I don't need to worry about this interrupting my Sims when she wants to enter the house. But if I did this above ground, the square will be there. So this helps me to create this house, but without having this huge green square constantly interrupting my Sims. I did this on a house earlier where it ended up interrupting with her trying to cook food because I had the stove by the wall, and this square, from even though the item itself was outside the house, it was still interrupting her inside of the house. So this was kind of annoying because I didn't want this, and I just decided I'm gonna make the whole house all over again and then make it from the basement up. So this is why I made this video, and also why I decided to split it into two pieces, because this is mainly just outside of the house and me working down in the basement, and I want to show you why I did this. If you're well known with toolmod, you already know about this kind of stuff, but if you're new to it, at least now you know how it works and how you can work around it. Of course, you don't need to copy your house and put it down in the basement the way that I'm doing, but the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want to look for the right square when I'm gonna lift it up. I want to make it more easier for myself and also show you how I'm working. You of course don't need to do the same way that I do, but this works for me. And so after a while where I have lifted or rotated the items that I want to have around the house on the outside of it, I then can start on the roof. Seeing how roof is above the house itself, I don't need to be down in the basement anymore because my Sims won't be walking on the roof. So now I can work above the ground because the square won't interrupt her now. So this is why we are now no longer down in the basement. So again, I of course get out all the blocks that I want to use on the roof, and I scale them up to the size that I want to have them in. So I line them all around the house because we are now going to rotate them again, but not the same way that we did where they're lying down on the ground. We want them to work with the house, the shape of the roof that we already have. So now it's just trying to get it into the right position of the rooftop so it looks like it has this complete frame as the same as the rooftop. And by doing that we go of course back into toolmod, we pick out rotate and we change the axis, and then we get the circle that we're looking for, and we decide plus or minus depending which way we want it to go. So this kind of goes in degrees, so I picked out 45 first to see if this fits perfectly well with the shape of the roof. Not every angle on the different roofs that I have on this house are the same, so I might need to go down to maybe 35 degrees, 25 degrees. It all depends on the angle, of course. So you notice this as you work on it, and the same rule goes as before. It's plus or minus, so you just work on it until you find a shape that fits. The good thing about the tool mode, also worth mentioning, is if you do a mistake, no worries, just click on the grass or something other than where you want the tool mode to work, and then click tool mode again, and then you find the undo button, and then you can make it back to where you were. So you don't need to worry about, oh damn it, I made a mistake, and then you have to do it all over again. you don't. You can do the undo and it will reset. So what I decided to do when I was working on the rooftop was also to change the color of the roof itself. I picked out the glass roof so I can see all the lines on top of the roof. So when I'm done placing the log later that is on top of the roof, I can see exactly where it lies down inside of the house or inside of the rooftop on the inside. So I don't really need to worry, is it too high, is it too low, is it the same? I can see it already because the roof is see-through. As you can see now, when I place the log on top of the roof, it doesn't really have the same shape as the roof that I've added from the Sims game. So of course I go back and I change this, so I want all the logs to work with the roof that I already have. I don't want to lower the roof because I'm quite happy with how the roof size itself is, so that's why I will change it. And by change it, of course, I mean going back in and rotate it. So of course, again, it's the same thing when it comes to the making of the shell. It's you constantly repeat yourself, and even though it might seem boring to constantly repeat yourself, you still can get a lot of good use out of it. And I'm really happy for the tool mod because it gives me an opportunity to create houses that I've seen in games. Like this for me is a little bit inspiration from movies like Asterix and Obelix and their village, how some of their houses look like. Sadly, I don't really have that really awesome grass roof that I was looking for, so I use a different roof, but I really am happy with the opportunity I get by the use of the tool mod to create tiny details on the roof that matters to me a lot. Of course it can matter lesser to others, but for me this matters a lot, and I really enjoy it when I feel that the house get a more depth into it, and these logs kind of helped my house to get a more of that feeling that I was looking for when it comes to the inspiration where I want it to be. So now I'm working mainly on the roof alone. I really want those logs to fit in, and I want it to look like the image that I have in my head. I've made two parts of this house because the next part I mainly work on the details around the windows, and I did a poll on Twitter and see if you guys wanted me to keep it in one video or just separate it with a 1 day apart, and you want me to separate it, so I did. This video I managed to edit it a little bit shorter so it isn't as long as I first thought it was going to be. But I hope you will enjoy my little video, and I hope you will get a little bit help of what I was trying to explain when it came to the use of toolmod, and maybe even get some ideas on how to use it yourself. So by that I think I'm gonna end it here. Rest of the video you just see me fixing up the details, and in the next video I will do the rest of the details and of course the windows and the lot itself. So I hope you will watch that video as well if you want to have a look at what I do with the windows. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. I'll see ya. And Merry Christmas!